3 out of the 4 episodes of Will and Grace that I have recently watched are amazing. 1 is fine, and they're so good that I finally made the decision that I'm going to continue watching Will and Grace. I originally bought season 1 on DVD and 2 of the discs were broken, or 3 of the discs, I can't remember. Some of it was broken. So I then had to buy the first season on Prime. And I was thinking, I don't really know if I want to buy the next season. I'm not loving it. And then after watching these, I made the decision to buy the complete box set. I wasn't going to, but then I found somebody on eBay selling it for £12 or £13 plus postage. And I thought, well, it would be ridiculous not to. So really looking forward to watching more of Will and Grace. And today I'm discussing season 1, episode 14, 15, 16, and 17. As always, I will go through them in order and share some thoughts, so there will be some spoilers, but I won't be going through everything scene by scene. And the first one is Season 1, Episode 14, Big Brother is Coming. Part 1, directed, of course, by the wonderful James Burrows. All 4 of these are directed by Burrows. And it starts off with them shopping for Jack's birthday present, and Grace bumps into Sam, Will's brother, played by John Slattery. And Sam misses Will, but Will hates Sam. And we find out why. It's because 5 years ago, Will told Sam that he did not like, in fact hated, the person Sam was going to marry. And ever since then, there's been a wedge between both of them. We'll come back to that in a bit. We then have party time for Jack, and Grace has invited Sam, and we find out that Sam's actually getting a divorce. So maybe he's not as bitter about what Will said to him, but Will is still very bitter because Sam cut him out of his life. Does Will have a right to be bitter? Yes and no. I don't think it was his right to say, I hate the person you're marrying. But then if he was asked, then why ask a question if you don't want the answer? But I don't think Will's allowed to be annoyed that Sam cut him out of his life. At least not to this extent. He can be annoyed, but I feel like it's gone too far. And clearly, so does Grace. We then find out that Jack thinks he's 29. And he realises he's actually 30. And he can't deal with it. And as a 33-year-old, I can see he's making a big deal out of nothing. But certainly Jack's very upset by this, so he runs off. Will goes to comfort him. And at the end of the episode, Sam and Grace kiss. And we find out it's to be continued. And I was very, very keen to find out what would happen next. And of course, next up, we have season 1, episode 15, Big Brother is Coming part 2. And we the viewer find out that Grace actually slept with Sam. And we have this really intense scene, really suspenseful and quite funny as well, where Will realizes Grace has slept with somebody and he tries to work out who it is. And there are a lot of distractions going on. So every time it seems like Grace is about to say something, there's another distraction. Very funny. I think it was really great to not give the game away too soon. But Karen guesses when Grace goes to work. And she makes Karen swear on her jewellery that she won't tell anybody. But when Jack visits Karen, he's upset still at being 30. And Karen realises she can cheer him up with this bit of gossip, but she promised to not say anything. So she decides to play charades instead, and I absolutely love it. And I had no idea that's how Karen would tell Jack, and I thought it was great fun. Really, really fabulous. And then, while he's cleaning his teeth, Will finds out. He guesses, he works it out. And he's upset about this, which I think is fair enough. And Karen suggests that to Grace, Sam represents a straight version of Will. And Jack suggests that Will wants Grace for himself, and if he were straight, he'd want to be with Grace, so he doesn't like the fact that his brother is. I think I can understand that. I feel like Will was more so hurt because this was his best friend. Whereas I think Karen might have something there. I think Karen might have hit the nail on the head, just my interpretation there. And after some bickering, and Grace tries to make them talk it out, eventually they make up, and it's not a bad end to the episode. I think it worked really, really well. And I don't know if we get to see Sam again at any point, but I quite like the character. And I feel like he was maybe not the most well-developed, detailed character. Most of the episode was focusing less on his personality and more on the fact he was with Grace. So I'd like to get to know him a little bit more, but certainly what we got was quite interesting. We then come to season 1, episode 16, Yours, Mine, or Ours. And this one was quite good fun. We have a subplot with Karen having to fire her driver. Her driver is played by Earl Schumann, and he's not necessarily up for the job, so she has to fire him. It's padding, but it works well. I certainly don't mind it. The narrative itself focuses on a character called Peter, played by David Newsom, and both Grace and Will, independently, bump into him in the elevator in the apartment, or in the apartment building. And he kind of seems to be flirting with both of them, just as both of them are flirting with him. And they both go up to his apartment for, I guess, an apartment warming. And it's not clear whether he's interested in either of them. Well, I don't know. I feel like he was a lot closer with Grace. He would have a conversation with Will and then go back and compliment Grace. It's almost like every time he broke away from Grace, he went back stronger. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's kind of my reading of the scenes, as basically we have Will and Grace trying to establish whether he's straight or gay, which of them is there as a potential date. Or, of course, option 3, it's neither Will nor Grace, and option 3 is that they are just there all as friends. And we have a lot of back and forth, a lot of mystery surrounding this, and we do get, we get a bit of confrontation. Maybe that's too strong a word, but it was quite an aggressive scene where they basically just said, are you straight or gay? Which of us do you like? And this is because he came into the apartment to invite them both to a movie. And what I love about this, well, I love it, but I hate it. He did just want to be their friends. And I like the fact that we're establishing that not everything has to have a romantic motive. Sometimes people just want to be friends. And he said something to the effect of, can't you tell, or this has never happened before. And as he left, he turned around and said, you're not my type. But to whom? To whom? So we don't get an answer. And on the one hand, I like that. Let's just keep the mystery going. I quite like it. But on the other, it was a bit frustrating. It's very possible the writers don't know. It's very possible that they didn't make up their mind. But as I said, just in my opinion, I always thought he was going stronger to Grace. He would break away and do something with Will, such as helping him with the golf clubs. Also, if you're in somebody's apartment, don't just pick up their golf clubs. How rude. And then going back to Grace and smelling her. And my opinion is that he was more interested in Grace. But then he said, you're not my type. So, I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's meant to be confusing. I don't think I'm meant to have an answer. But if anybody does feel strongly one way or another, I'd love to know what you think. And then we come to the last one in this batch, Season 1, Episode 17, Secrets and Lays. And this is the one where I didn't really care for it. It's very slow. It's a little boring. I didn't hate it necessarily, but I certainly didn't love it. And the four of them go to the cabin, and Will doesn't know this, but the purpose of the trip is to take Will's mind off of his anniversary with Michael, which is nice. It's a nice thing to do. And when Grace arrives there, she's reacquainted with a character called Campbell, played by David Sutcliffe. Immediate flirting between the two of them. And she spends some time with him, but she doesn't want Will to know, because this weekend she's supposed to be giving all of her attention to Will, even though Will doesn't know that that's what her plan is. And they're in the cabin together. Will comes in and she ends up casting poor Campbell out in the freezing cold. And eventually Will finds out about him, and he also eventually admits that he's not fine. And I love that. It was a bit of an emotional moment where he admits he's not doing as okay as he'd like to be. And he gets quite emotional. And I like that. I like the fact that we get to see this vulnerable side, and that it's okay to admit you're not doing okay if you're not doing okay. And I think that's a really good message. Otherwise, I found it to be quite a bit of a boring episode. So not as interesting as the others. But I got to the end of that episode and then immediately went looking for the box set. So it clearly wasn't that bad. If I were to rank them, difficult, very difficult. I guess I'd have to say, wow, this is quite difficult actually. Big Brother is Coming Part 2, then Yours, Mine or Ours, and then Big Brother is Coming Part 1, and then Secrets and Lays. But don't etch it in stone, I'm not 100% sure. But either way, 4 really great episodes of Will and Grace. I think I only have one more batch. I think there are 5 left, and then I'm on to Season 2, but I could be lying. That could be completely incorrect. But I have finally reached the point where I'm keen to see. The main reason I wanted to buy the box set or continue watching the show is that I want to find out what happens to the characters. I want to know what happens to them by season 8. And I don't want any spoilers. I want to enjoy the journey. Hopefully, we'll enjoy the journey. But that means to me I've developed an attachment to the characters. And honestly, I can't wait to find out what's in store with the rest of this season and then hopefully the rest of the show.